Welcome, champions, to the next overview and tier list ranking, featuring the newest champion. This is where we'll break down their mechanics and place them in my overall tier list for every champion in the game. But first, can we just give a round of applause for them allowing us to open chests en masse? Finally? Woo! Anyway, let's talk about BBEG. BBEG. Big Bad Evil Guy. The Lawful Evil Drow Wizard in Seat 3. He serves the group as a support and speed champion. His primary attack is very simple, attacking the enemy with the most health with a conjured spectral hand. His ultimate interacts with one of his formation abilities, so let's just dive right into that. Rise My Minions will have BBEG create a plodding zombie every 10 seconds that will appear in front of the party and slowly plod forward. These zombies will persist with area changes, so any new summoned zombie will not go to waste. Enemies near the zombies will take bud damage over time. And that ultimate of his, when activated, will have a symbol appear for 30 seconds. And while active every time he summons a zombie, he will instead summon two. We're slowly getting closer to my full team of necromantic summoners. With Sources of Corpses, he increases the output of zombies when he is slotted with his affiliation, reducing its cooldown by 2.5 seconds for each slotted, but also increasing the damage output of his next formation ability multiplicatively for each active zombie and applying to the pre-stack value. For that damage buffing, he gains Evil Overlord, where he increases the damage of those with an intelligence of 12 or lower. I'm not entirely sure what's so evil about increasing the performance of those who aren't book smart though. He will even further increase this damage bonus with Homebrew, with a unique interaction with your potions, increasing its potency for each potion you have active, stacking multiplicatively. Ultimately, you can make this output some pretty good numbers, but it is also a bit restrictive. For his speed, he gains Railroad, where if the area is completed in 5 seconds or less, he will reduce the next area's requirements by 25%. He also gains a feat to increase this by 100%, bringing it to a total of 50%, making him almost mere Nahara, but slightly higher so he reduces the next area by a tiny bit more than her, and remember, they share a seat. And while you do require the feat to bring it up to full power, like Nahara, it requires no item level investment. That doesn't mean he will always replace Nahara now, though. As with something like a scriptless run, depending, you might not want him because of the consistent bud damage, and I haven't tested it personally, but it could be the zombies will slightly lag the game. So you'll want to test a few runs before you dedicate to him. And for a little sprinkle of availability, he lastly gets Awful Nemesis, tracking down anyone in his affiliation, becoming available regardless of restriction, as long as one of the awful ones is eligible for the adventure you are on. His specializations focus entirely on increasing the damage bonus of Evil Overlord, in a similar fashion to the rest of his affiliation. With Power Gaming, he will increase the damage bonus for each evil champion in the formation. With min-maxing, he will increase it for every champion slotted, with a total ability score of 78 or less. And with Rules Lawyering, he will increase it for every lawful champion in the formation. All of these are both stacking and applying multiplicatively. His equipment allows him for some good scaling, not needing an ultimate damage slot, as his ultimate is instead tied to a formation ability interaction. One for Evil Overlord, Homebrew, Rise My Minions, Sources of Corpses, and his specializations. And of course, that ultimate cooldown reduction. His feats are pretty standard: mini formation increases, slight all damage increases, an ability score increase to his charisma to make him available for Zariel, but that will rarely be needed as he'll be available for anything Nixie and Antris are available for already. Just be sure to pick Skipping Ahead if you have the gems and are interested in using him for his speed mechanic. Now let's talk about his event, Dragondown. This time we have BBEG, Merylwyn, and Celise, another interesting bunch. Merylwyn is an excellent source of gold find. Celise is an alright buffer and a decent tank, with a unique interaction with Nrak and her wisdom feat, where she is able to become immune to melee attacks, which can be handy for something like a Jimothy group. Speed vs gold vs tank. As always, you'll want to push to full epic all of them to the best of your ability, and keep in mind it is Selisa's last year before she is retired to only being available through time gates. As far as a focus, it really depends on what you're looking for in your formation. No clear winner in my opinion, though Merylwyn is one of the better gold find champions in the game. So what about his achievement and variants? The achievement isn't too bad, simply requiring you to have 8 of his plotting zombies active at the same time. Using his ult and mixing in some Awful Ones affiliation will make it happen, Cap'n. And for his variants, we're still in the standard of having him start unlocked and able to be moved but not removed. The first will only allow you to use champions with an intelligence of 12 or lower. Not hard to build a formation around, and is an easy way to see what DPS out there he can actually buff. The second variant will spawn a cat every second to move forward to random champions, which will stun them for 3 seconds. They will not be able to attack for the duration, but their formation abilities will remain active. If you happen to have the Awful Ones unlocked, it wouldn't be a bad idea to slot them here, so you can just rely on BBEG's persistent bud damage output to carry you on. Lastly, the third variant will only allow you to use Lawful, Evil, and those with a total ability score of 78 or less to match his spec choices. This is a wide array of champions, so this should not give anyone any issues. So, the big problem with the big bad evil guy. Availability is not bad, sure, but other than speed, how often are you really going to be using him? That's the biggest problem with the Awful Ones as a whole. Antreus can fit just about anywhere, which is great, but Nixie and Avandra set up a very restrictive pattern, and BBEG just continues on that trend. Let's say you want to use the Awful Ones altogether, as most of their kits lead you to want to do, but you don't want to force yourself to use Nixie as your DPS. You have literally one other option in the entire game that fits within those parameters: Lucius. Charisma 17 plus from Nixie, Intelligence 12 or lower from Big Bad Evil Guy, and Neutral from Avandra. Now you could use Corazon to make 2 other champions count, with his ability to make them available for the neutral tag, and that is Warden and Arkan. But Arkan requires positionals to usurp up, and the Awful Ones plus Corazon will severely hinder that. So, Lucius and potentially Warden. That's really not setting you up for success, and is insanely restrictive. His speed is useful enough to maybe dethrone Nahara in that seat, being almost the same mechanically, but being available for more than she is and slightly higher reduction. For my tier list, he's going to be all the way down at the bottom of the B tier. He does at least pump up some decent numbers for those that can be buffed by him, and his speed will be useful with some great availability, and offers persistent bud shredding. Thanks for hanging around, you BBTs, big beautiful pterodactyls. Do me a favor and click that like, sub, and bell for me. Leave a comment on what you think of BBEG and the Awful Ones. And always remember, have a hell of a time out there, champions.